Hello and welcome back to the first episode of the Off the Sideline podcast. I am Jackson and I'm joined here as always by nobody. I'm not joined here by anybody. It is just me here. So to just let everyone know what's going on, for those of you who are confused, no podcast here tonight. It's New Year's. We're taking the taking the show off. We will be back Wednesday we'll give a quick recap then, and also do our predictions and all that stuff. And then we're back to scheduled time throughout the rest of the way. However, I wanted to still give some thoughts on, for people who are interested, maybe the podcast is part of your commute or anything like that. Figured I will give, a quick run through of my thoughts of these games. So let's just go through it. I'll kind of go in chronological order a little bit here. Jets, Browns, Joe Flacco is back all of a sudden. This is kind of a crazy development that's all of a sudden happened. So, he's playing really good football. And this Browns team, it's a team that I had kind of been sleeping on all year long because I kept saying the offense is not looking good. I still think there's issues offensively, but they're not showing them right now. So I don't know if they're just hot right now or if this is who they are, but they're not a team I would want to play in the playoffs at this point. Jets, whatever. We know the Jets stink. The Jets aren't very good at this point. I don't have too much to add for them. So let's just, we'll power through these. Not gonna spend forever on each of these games like we would if a podcast. It's going to be a shortened version. Last night, the Lions played the Cowboys and lost to them with controversy. And I would say listen, we can say the controversy and all that. I think the Cowboys were the better team in this game. I do. It was close. They both played well. I do think, Dallas had a couple of those. The turnovers were even, but I felt again, that CeeDee Lamb fumble in the back of the end zone, if that goes the other way, it's a different game. Also worth mentioning, there was a bad call that prevented Dallas from potentially being able to run out the clock. Maybe it would have ended the game. That final drive might have never happened. That hurt Dallas in that one. So all that stuff is worth mentioning as well. But definitely the frustration at the end. They were rightly frustrated. I made a couple videos now on this channel. Check those out if you want, about it was a frustrating situation if you're a Lions fan. No getting around it. The ref got it wrong. If you we just watched the broadcast and didn't hear about it, check out my video. The broadcast screwed it up as well. It was a great game though. These are two really good teams. These are, I think, the Niners' biggest threats in the conference. I think it is these two teams, and they played each other very tough. So if this is now Dallas, with Philadelphia losing, they're in a great spot. They just got to win against Washington next week, and they have the 2 seed. I think they're going to get the 2 seed. I think that's going to happen at this point. So Philadelphia has to be frustrated with the way this went as well, in a sense, although I guess they would, kind of, I don't know. Philadelphia's in a weird spot. We'll get to them in a second. But, the Lions, I still think their defense had its rough moments, but it gets those turnovers. And they can keep getting turnovers. That's going to be a real key way. And while I kind of, discredited it a little bit by saying, there was some turnover luck, at the same time, they turned the ball over as well. This was not a perfectly clean game on either side. If the Lions play their best game of football, perhaps they can, win this game without even having it to come down to that final play. Also didn't think Dan Campbell should have gone for 2 at the end there. Going for 2 initially was the right call, but once you get the penalty, I think he probably should have played for overtime. That's just how I view all of that. Spent a while on that game. Not quite sure I'm going to spend as long on Titans versus Texans here, but quick thoughts. Texans are a lot better with C.J. Stroud. I'm not sure if they're this much better with C.J. Stroud. I think some other things went their way as well, but kind of just one of those games. And the Texans defense has just done this to teams here and there this season. Titans only 3.5 yards per play in this game. Really tough. Not really big turnover swings on either side. The Titans had 1, and that was it. So I don't know. The Tannehill stuff, it hasn't looked as good since he's been out there. And Derrick Henry, he's not what he once was. It is what it is. He's not what he once was. So, tough spot for the Titans. But Texans finding a way to win. They win next week. They're, I believe, just in general, they'd be into the playoffs. I don't think there's a way they can get out if they lose. So, really good spot here for Houston. The Falcons and Bears, somehow, when people complain about the NFC South, this is why they complain, because the 7-9 Falcons still have a chance to make the playoffs. They need a victory, and they need a Tampa Bay loss. That would create a 3-way tie between the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons. The Falcons would get in. It is still very possible. The thing I credited Heineke with last week was like, hey, he didn't turn the ball over, and he did have a kind of a dropped interception in that game, but still it was like, okay, protecting the football. This Falcons offense can look good if you protect the football. Well, 3 interceptions in this game for Atlanta. They ended up with actually 4 interceptions thrown. Ritter came in for a bit and he threw an interception as well. Wanted to remind everyone what he's capable of. Bijan had a solid day in this one. Algier had a 75-yard rush for Atlanta, but this was the Justin Fields show. This is what it's about, and it's like, I don't know. Do you give Justin Fields another year? At this point, it's a good problem to have, but I wouldn't want to have to make this decision, right? I just wouldn't. Seems like, and it was announced Eberflus is probably going to stay. As of recording this video, I believe the Bears technically aren't mathematically eliminated, although it's looking rough. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it, but just the fact that they have the fact that we're even talking about them playoff-wise is crazy, given where they were at. Their defense is playing great. DJ Moore has been awesome for them this season, and he was awesome in this game. They run the ball well, they throw the ball well, they play good defense. The Bears are moving in the right direction, and the Falcons are not, and yet the Falcons might have the easier pathway to a postseason berth at this point. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens were, I remember Lamar Jackson's first MVP season, and gonna have to get used to saying that, right? Because I think he's gonna win it this year. I think it's a lock at this point. Maybe not a lock, but I think he's gonna win it this year. I don't think that he's gonna, no matter what happens next week, I don't know if he'll play or not. But even if he has a bad game, I think he would still get the MVP at this point because people would be talking about other stuff, and narrative does matter with that award. But I remember when Lamar won his MVP the first time, and he had his famous not bad for a running back press conference. That was against Miami, and they put up 50 in that game as well. So they can play Miami tough, it seems. I mean, this is crazy. The Dolphins offense was playing pretty well in this game, the Dolphins defense was playing pretty well this season. Wow, I was way off with that sentence. Dolphins defense, and I do think the Dolphins offense played all right in this game, but their defense had been playing well coming into this game, but not in this game. I mean, Lamar, they were blowing coverages, and quite frankly, there was plenty of opportunities where there was good defense and just better offense by Lamar. Lamar had 321 passing yards on 21 attempts. Lamar threw 5 touchdowns on 21 attempts. He had 16 passes that weren't touchdowns and 5 passes that were. That's insane what he was able to do. Huntley came in, he threw 1 pass, and it was a touchdown. So, 6 out of their 22 passes in this game were touchdowns. At a certain point, they were just trying to run out the clock, and even that still went pretty well. So, it's crazy. Odell only had 1 catch, but it feels like he had a big game. He was doing stuff, setting up routes, ran a really good pick, which I mentioned in my video. This is a great game for the Ravens, and for Miami, it's a blown opportunity. I mean, it is. This is a disaster for them, quite frankly. Listen, Baltimore's good. No shame in losing to Baltimore, although, again, you have higher thoughts than just making the playoffs right now for Miami. You want to go on a deep run. Might have to beat Baltimore to do it. So it gives you concern of, can you beat that team? I don't know. And granted, it was close for a while there, right? It felt like they were kind of trading scores back and forth. But then the issue is Miami's offense stopped scoring, and the Ravens' offense never did. But at the same time, it's just, if you could have found a way to win this game, you had a shot at the 1 seed. Now they have to fight for the division next week. I mean, that's going to come down to, that game is going to decide who wins the division. So, tough situation for Miami. Okay, I had to take off my jacket. It was getting a little bit hot. So for the people watching the video, that's what happened there. But yeah, again, as a whole, big win for the Baltimore Ravens. Next up, the Saints Buccaneers. I think if this was an actual podcast, I probably would have broken out the comically oversized beer mug in this situation. Not doing it here, though. But, I made a whole video talking about this, which I had to re-upload due to an editing error. But, check that out if you haven't already. But, my quick thoughts. I mean, it's a frustrating loss. No getting around it. Win next week and you're okay. So it's not the end of the world, but it's a frustrating loss. It is. Got to give credit to the Saints. They needed this win. They found a way to make it happen. But I'm tired of losing to the Saints. I'm just tired of them in general. They're just annoying. I don't like them. They frustrate me. Let's just move on. The Patriots and Bills. I mean, I give credit to New England. They hung around, and with a pick six, and Bailey Zappi at one point had 3 interceptions and 3 completions. Finding a way to make a game of this is relatively impressive. But the Bills kind of, if you felt good about them the entire second half, they find a way to win here. Again, Patriots did outgain the Bills, the 4.1 yards per play. Patriots played the Bills tough. Bills offense still has some issues. It is what it is at this point. And again, Josh Allen, another interception here. Although, I still think Josh Allen was really good. I mean, he had the 2 rushing touchdowns, which don't count for the passing stats for whatever reason. Why not just include it all together? Why don't we just look at total touchdowns? But either way, that's worth mentioning. But at the end of the day, finding a way to win a game, they kind of had to win, and now you feel pretty good about your spot. I mean, you don't have to beat Miami next week, but if you do, you could win the division. So definitely have to feel good about where they're at. Patriots, I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts on New England. I would have given Kyle a minute on the regular podcast, but now, unfortunately, you don't get to hear that. Maybe next week on Wednesday, we'll give Kyle his 1 minute. Next up, we have the Cardinals playing the Eagles. This is a huge game to talk about because we thought this would be kind of a blowout. And kind of what we kept saying about the Eagles is like, okay, listen, it hasn't been great this past month or so, but play the Giants twice and the Cardinals. You're good. You're going to beat a 2 seed. 1 seed feels unlikely due to kind of some of the losses you had, like losing to the Seahawks when they won that game. They would have had a chance at the 1 seed. But you're fine. Get the 2 seed. It's okay. You're in a good spot. What a devastating loss here. I mean, that's really the main thing I'm taking away here is it's just devastating loss. Listen, you got a pick 6 in this game, and a long pick 6, a 99-yard pick 6. You got that in this game, and you still lost to a team that you should have won by, double digits. They were favored by double digits in this game, but it didn't matter. And again, you got to give credit. Kyler Murray showing why the Cardinals probably should maybe give him some help as opposed to getting a new guy to play quarterback. James Conner has been a really great find for them. He's been great for them this season. And then this Eagles defense continues to be underwhelming. I mean, that's just underwhelming is an understatement. It's a bad defense. It's one of the worst defenses. It might be the worst defense to make the playoffs this season. Like, that's where they're currently at. So, and their offense just isn't playing good enough to make up for it right now. Played well. I mean, 30 points, you'll take that. But still, like, you're playing the Cardinals. You kind of expect 30 points, to be honest, if you're a championship contender. So, devastating loss. The Eagles almost seem to be a lock to be a 5 seed. And, like, listen, say what you want about the NFC South winner. They'll be favored by a lot in that game. They will. But at the same time, it's just a tough situation. It's something you don't want to have to deal with going on the road there. You're then going to be on the road for a month. In this scenario, it's not easy to do it. It's possible, but also the way they're playing, like, can they even beat an NFC South team at this point? That's not how they're playing. So just a tough loss for them. Next up is the Panthers Jaguars. I mean, this was tough. And to be honest, when Bryce Young got banged up for a little bit, I'm glad he was able to be healthy. I'm glad he was able to go back into the game. But as part of you that said, well, maybe, if you're a Jaguars fan, part of you is maybe a little bit concerned about him getting hurt because that might mean Andy Dalton comes in who might play better. I mean, as a Tampa Bay fan who now needs to beat Carolina the final game of the season, I would rather play Bryce Young. I just would. And, like, it's not all his fault. It's obviously not all his fault. But, I mean, like, the numbers are... I know numbers are numbers. Box score stats do not mean a lot. But, like, I mean, he's getting... he's well under 5 yards. He's closer to a third of... or a 3.3 yards per attempt right here than he is to getting to 5 yards per attempt. I mean, that's just... It's a tough situation. This offense has been terrible. It just has. And, give credit to Jacksonville. Like, their defense looked back in this game. Like, the whole thing about Jacksonville, right, is good quarterback play, good defense, especially their secondary, and then, hopefully everything else can do okay. Well, they didn't even have Lawrence in this game, but Beathard came in and did his job, didn't throw an interception. That's what you want to do here, right? Jacksonville in general did not turn the ball over, so that's important, and they were able to just do what they had to do. For Jacksonville, you can still get in. You beat the Titans next game, you win the division. So, been a tough month for them, but it's all forgiven if you can just win next week. Next up, Raiders Colts. I feel bad for the Raiders. I mean, this ends their season, which is a bummer because they were a fun team this year, found ways to win certain games, and really kind of came back, into the thick of things as of late, stayed alive with their win against Kansas City, but disappointing loss here. There's no getting around that for them. It was a competitive game. It could have gone, potentially in their favor. They needed an onside kick at the end, which is just, you never want to put yourself in that situation. But again, this is the good Gardner Minshew, right? The Colts team is essentially, we're going to be solid across the board. Neither team turned the ball over in this game, weirdly enough. And they're like, we're just going to play solid, and hopefully, we get good enough play from Minshew. And, Michael Pittman being back in the lineup really helps out this team. So for Indianapolis, the Texans look back. The Colts are playing the football they like to play. Should be a really interesting game next week, which should decide a playoff spot. So that should be a lot of fun. We then have the Rams-Giants, where this ended up being way more competitive than I thought it was going to be. Looked at the score, I was like, okay, Rams. It was one of those games where the Rams they were in the lead for pretty much the entire game, so it felt like they were good. Then all of a sudden, all the Giants need is a Tyrod Taylor 2-point conversion to take the lead in this game. They fail on it. They had a chance at it too, but failed on it, and because of that, they lose by a point in this one. Again, several things to talk about here. My biggest takeaway, though, is the Stafford couple picks in this game. This is the downside of the Matt Stafford experience, right? The Rams in general lost the turnover battle 3-1, and they can put the ball in harm's way. This is a team that can put the ball in harm's way. So while they've certainly more than made up for it with the positives, Stafford more than makes up for it, he was playing super hot football as of late, but this is a downside. Probably not going to win a playoff game if you play like this, but you know what? Giants also have been playing a lot better football, and Tyrod Taylor's a solid quarterback. That throw down the field was good. He can make some plays. So, Rams, again, goal is to win at this point, survive in advance. They win next week. They're in, and now, maybe even better news for them is the San Francisco 49ers clinching the 1 seed. Now they might rest their starters. Even if they don't rest their starters, maybe they'll just play a half or something like that. Opportunity here. So, I'm sure Rams fans are happy about that. The last game of the 1 o'clock window, which I gotta say, too many 1 o'clock games. Too much to keep track of, but 49ers Commanders was the last one. And, I'll give credit to Sam Howell. He kept it interesting for a bit, but I'm disappointed because Kyle locked up the 49ers minus 13.5. Felt like there was a chance. I think a Brissett play is maybe the Washington football team cover, but again, Brock Purdy made some real good plays in this one. And Brock Purdy's, a good player. And the 49ers, especially with how Philadelphia's looked right now, Dallas and Detroit are good, but it feels like it's the 49ers conference for the taking at this point. The late window, we'll start off with Steelers and Seahawks here, as it was a very interesting game. Mike Tomlin, yet again, has his team finish at least 500. Unbelievable that he has been able to keep this going. I didn't think it was going to happen. When they lost to the Colts, got crushed in that football game, I was like, all right, it is, all good things must come to an end, right? Records were meant to be broken. That record is going to be broken. No. Did not happen. The Seahawks fall to the Steelers. And what was a very entertaining game, there was a late fumble towards the end by Geno Smith, who, neither team, both teams protected the football well. Neither team got any takeaways with the exception of that one fumble, but that set up a field goal for the Steelers to be able to go up 2 scores. A bit of a curious decision, I thought, by Pete Carroll to go for the onside kick. I don't know if he had to do that. I was actually getting a bit big brain idea with, it was 2 minutes and 1 second left. The Seahawks had 2 timeouts and they were down 7 points. They go for an onside kick. I was kind of thinking, why not just kick the ball out of bounds there? Let the Steelers get the ball at the 40, but you get an extra timeout because now it's 2 minutes and 1 second. You get the 2-minute warning, and if you give up a first down, they would have still had a chance. It wouldn't have been field goal range quite yet. Obviously, in hindsight, that would have made sense. Of course, if the Seahawks got the onside kick, then they would have looked like geniuses. So it is what it is, but at the end of the day, I think to me the biggest takeaway in this game is the Steelers' offense just looks a lot better with Rudolph out there. Rudolph's just the starter at this point, no question about it. He's the starter. He's going to be the guy. And another big thing for the Steelers is because of the way things broke down with the Ravens have clinched a 1 seed. They might not be pushing as hard as they typically would have if they needed a 1 seed. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, for sure rest their starters for the whole game, especially when, they rested their starters the year that they were the 1 seed last time and then got knocked out round 1. I wonder if they're not going to want to do that this time. I could see them playing their starters for a half, though, right? Have them play for a half, then bench them in the second half. If the Steelers win, they're in. That's all they need to do at this point. They're looking pretty good. It's actually not quite that simple. I believe they would need they would need a Bills loss as well. So they need a little bit of help. So correction there. But, Bills play the Dolphins. Like, it's not crazy to think that the Steelers could be in with a win. So, they need a little bit of help, but could be interesting. And they have a real chance to do it. When I did my playoff prediction thing, I predicted them to make it at this point. The Bills, I don't know. Bills-Dolphins feels like a coin flip game. But, for the Steelers, got a real chance at this point to make it. I'm not saying they for sure will make it just because I predicted it. But, I think they have, a good chance to win it at this point. As for the Seahawks, I also predicted them at this point, but it's, they don't control their own destiny at this point. They just don't. The winner of the Vikings and Packers game, who I am recording this video without knowing that, because, again, I'm going to be out doing stuff tonight, but, whoever wins that game will then control their own destiny, but just need a little bit of help there, and you can still get in, but you would have loved to just not even have to worry about that. They do play Arizona next week. Feels like they're going to beat Arizona, but need a little bit of help now on top of it, and the Rams clinched the playoffs because of the way this game went. It's also just another one of those for Seattle. It's like another situation where it feels like you lost a winnable game. I'm not saying they've completely been terrible on so many of these games, but they've had plenty of winnable games that they just haven't been able to win. This is another one. Chargers-Broncos was a game. It was on. Two teams played football for 60 minutes. That happened in this one. Jarrett Stidham looked all right. Jarrett Stidham isn't a terrible quarterback or anything like that. I think what we know is that the Chargers, without Herbert, are not a very good football team, and the fact that the Bills nearly lost to them is kind of embarrassing. Still, I think that's what we can learn here. Although Easton Stick has looked better these past couple of weeks, but still not good. It's not a good team. The Chargers are a bad team without Herbert. They just are. I still don't know what to make of this Russell Wilson benching scenario. I still think it's a bit weird that they did this, still having a chance to make the playoffs. Technically, mathematically, they had a chance entering this week. So it's unique there. But yeah, I don't have too much to add for this game. Broncos defense has played a lot better as of late. Good for them. And the Chargers, I think, are just ready for next season. And last but not least, Chiefs-Bengals here. Because again, I'm not doing the Sunday night game because I'll be away doing stuff. I'm sure I'll give my thoughts on it at the very least on the Wednesday show. Kyle and I will give our thoughts on some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, so Chiefs are in the playoffs, which is something that we kind of thought would be the case. It's kind of crazy that it took this long for it to happen. And if they didn't win this, they would have needed, basically to win the final game of the season or get a Broncos loss the final game of the season. Luckily for them, don't even have to worry about it. They can rest their starters if they want to. Although, if I'm being honest, the way the Chiefs are playing, I personally would not want to be resting anybody. They need as many reps together as possible trying to figure something out. Rashee Rice had a huge play in this game, and really, you have to feel like he has to be their guy this season, right? He has to be a key guy at the very least, along with Kelsey, who did not do a lot offensively in this game. The Bengals did a pretty good job at shutting him down. The Bengals defense did a good job just in this game in general. I mean, the reality is for, the Chiefs, they still didn't score enough. I mean, they had the one touchdown in this, one touchdown in this game, and then a bunch of field goals, which is like, okay, I mean, you're moving the ball, that's good, but the offense still doesn't look great. They're still 3 for 12 on third downs in this game, and it came down to the wire again against Kansas. We thought this would be a great matchup when the Bengals had Joe Burrow. Like the fact that you're kind of, just not, it's a competitive game here for Kansas City. That's still a disappointment for Kansas City. It just is in this situation. Granted, the Chiefs nearly had twice as many yards per play in this game. It was a weird game. The right team won, but again, for the Chiefs, they continue to look at times unimpressive this season. But you're in, and at the end of the day, a bad season for the Chiefs is still a good season for other teams, right? Many teams would love to win 10 games and make the playoffs, including the Bengals, who will now not do either of those things. 8-8, they are clinched out of the postseason because the Steelers won. They cannot, even if they go 9-8, they would not be able to find a way into the postseason. So they're out of things now, which, I'll give them a lot of credit for how they fought this season. I kind of joked on the video I made when Joe Burrow got hurt. I kind of, Zach Taylor said our season's not over yet, and I kind of said, I think it might be over. It wasn't. Zach Taylor was right. The season was not over. They were able to remain competitive, and if they found a way to win today, they would still be competing for a playoff spot on the final game of the season, which is pretty eventful, but not quite able to get it done today. So, but, give them a lot of credit. So, yeah. That is the Off the Sideline podcast. It's more fun with Kyle, but you know what? Doing what we can here to, get some content out there. Again, I'm going to have a bunch of content out tomorrow. I still will have my playoff predictions video where I can do the playoff machine and see which teams are going to make it and just talk about scenarios, all of that stuff. Always important to talk about that on the final game of the season. Of course, if you like audio-only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, just search On the Sideline podcast. That is available, including this weird, Off the Sideline edition of the On the Sideline podcast will be available there, so you can check all of this stuff out. And yeah, plenty of content coming out tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. Podcast will resume normal time Wednesday at 5 Eastern, so look out for that. And of course, as always, have a good one. Peace. I had to add in a piece because Kyle's not here. But yeah, bye.